para que ese policía no ande en la calle, porque puede hacer lo mismo.
She hopes that justice would be done and that officer would be taken off the streets, and so he couldn't be able to do this again.
Que ese policía no estaba entrenado a hacernos el bien, sino a matar como mató a mi hija.
Came here to kill her.
Pido justicia para que lo encierren, pido justicia.
Ask for justice.
Justicia para mi hija. Es todo.
Tony Serrano.
It's very hard for me to talk about what happened. Like my mom said, they killed the entire family when they killed Yanira. But I want to make it clear that when I called the 911, I said that this wasn't an emergency. And the dispatcher and the officer didn't have the training that they needed. I also want to say that the DA, the county, the government, they don't care about us.
Right. No, they don't. Exactly. That's right.
They don't care about the mental ill. He came here claiming that he was going to be transparent. He made these promises to be in the middle, but he didn't. So now we're here demanding justice. And I can say, what's justice? What justice is, for me, for these officers to have a better training, so this won't happen ever again. I don't wish for everyone to feel what I'm feeling right now and what the whole family is experiencing right now. That's all I have.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Ignacio Serrano, Yanira's father.
Yo soy el papá de Yanira. De nuevo, como me dijo mi esposa, yo pido justicia, porque mi niña no era ni una drogadita, ni una pandillera.
Like my wife said, she was a kind child. She wasn't a drug user. She wasn't a gang member.
Porque no estuvo bien lo que hicieron.
It was not right what they did.
Y de nuevo les pido justicia para él.
And I repeat that request for justice. And I should add, and Tony touched on this a little bit, that the district attorney did do a transparent investigation. They came back here before they announced that they would not be pressing charges against the officer. As I understand it from the retelling of that visit by the family, the district attorney recognized that it was a bad shooting, that it was wrong. But the investigator told the family that they didn't have the evidence to bring charges against the officer. Unfortunately, where that leaves the family is in this kind of hollow limbo. They want justice. The only way they're going to see justice is now through a civil lawsuit. The only way that his actions are going to be evaluated in front of a jury is through a civil action. The only way they're going to see any modicum of justice, their day in court, is through a civil lawsuit. Y en español quería reconocer primero aquí que venimos acompañados aquí de la cónsul de protección aquí en San Francisco, la cónsul González Félix Adriana. También, como anotó Tony, los de la Fiscalía hicieron una investigación que nombraron como transparente. La intención era de hacer una investigación de todos los hechos. Por fin se presentaron aquí los investigadores de la Fiscalía y les dijeron a la familia muy francamente que el tiroteo no debería de haber ocurrido, que fue malo, es que decir. Pero al aclarar, indicaron que no había evidencias suficientes para perseguir un caso penal contra el oficial. Para la familia, pues, nomás, bueno, y para todos, nomás es difícil entender, en una mano decir que, pues primero que no fue justo, pero decir que no era suficiente de evidencias acá, y por eso estamos aquí. La única manera que ellos van a recibir justicia va a ser por una demanda civil. La única manera que se va a presentar acá este oficial delante de un jurado va a ser por parte de una demanda civil. La única manera que vamos a llegar a tener nuestra hora delante de un juez en la tribunal va a ser por parte de esta demanda. Y eso es lo que esperamos, que vamos a llegar a la justicia aquí para Yanira, para su familia y para todas las otras personas que sufren de estas enfermedades mentales. I also wanted to introduce John Melrod. John Melrod is one of the attorneys involved in the lawsuit. And John wanted to read a letter. Actually, John, I'll let you take over.
Yes. First, I'd like to ask everybody from the press for 1 minute to look at the circle of flowers that are here before us. The county thought by paving over the spot on which Yanira died, that perhaps her memory would be forgotten. Rather than her memory be forgotten, this has become a memorial to the Moonridge community of the death of one of their own. The mama and the father and Tony spoke about the loss to the family. I've been here on many nights when the community came out to hold candlelight vigils, and we gathered here and we laid flowers. And in Spanish, this was called the Circle of Yanira's Life. And that's how we choose to remember her, that she was alive. This was a poem, this was a letter written by her classmates. It says, written by Yanira's classmate on 6/5/2014. That was 2 days after she was killed. Dear Yanira, April 16th, 1996 to June 3rd, 2014. I hope that you are in a better place, a place that you don't need to worry about anything, where all the sadness, fear, and unfairness of earth don't even exist. I hope one day I will be able to walk to you as we walk past each other. But until that day comes, we will wait. You will wait for us, because eventually we will be there to be able to be the class and family we once were. So as I said before, you wait and you wait for as long as possible in the world up there, because we will be there. Yes, we will. We will always miss you. That's who Yanira was. While they paint her as a victim, Yanira was the victim only of a police bullet. This is the memory that her friends have left for the family of Yanira.
Thank you, John. Before we leave, I wanted to introduce Consul of Legal Affairs for the Consulate General of San Francisco. Yanira's parents are U.S. citizens, and that should be clear, but they were born in Mexico, and the Mexican government obviously is interested in these affairs, and I understand that she wanted to make a statement both in English and in Spanish. I'll introduce Consul González Félix.
Buenos días. Sí, soy la cónsul encargada del área de protección y asuntos legales del consulado. Para nosotros la familia también es mexicana y entera mexicana. Y quiero decirles que nosotros solicitamos investigación tanto de la oficina del sheriff como de la oficina del district attorney, que eran encargados de la investigación y del proceso, ver si había cargos penales. La oficina del District Attorney no nos contestó y es uno de los siguientes pasos que el consulado va a tomar es elevar este caso también a nivel federal, a la Oficina de Civil Rights del U.S. Attorney, y estaremos dándole seguimiento también a la demanda civil. Good morning, this is I'm Consul Yanira Serrano. I'm in charge of the Protection and Legal Department of the Mexican Consulate, and I want to tell you that for us also, the family and Yanira are Mexicans, and we have been following this case since the beginning. We sent letters requesting investigation, both sheriff and district attorney. The district attorney office never respond to the consulate, and given the outcome, we are also doing our work in elevating this case also to the civil rights investigation U.S. attorney and following through also with the civil litigation. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, I'm sure you have questions. We're here to answer those that you may have, folks.
So just to make sure that we understand, or that I understand at least, this is it's not a civil rights violation complaint, it's a civil complaint. Y si puedes responder en español.
Sí, cómo no. La demanda es una demanda civil. No nomás es una queja aquí con el gobierno, formalmente es una acción en la corte. Y lo que se está persiguiendo son los remedios que la ley nos proporciona. Lamentablemente los remedios son económicos y ahí vamos a dejar a esa cuestión para el jurado. La intención aquí es de darle luz a esta injusticia y asegurar que no fuera a ocurrir otra vez.
Can you answer that?
I will. And the question was a clarification if this was a civil rights complaint to the government as opposed to a federal lawsuit. And the clarification is just that. This is a lawsuit. It's a civil rights lawsuit. It alleges violations of the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, that protects us, frankly, from police abuse. And the allegation, very simply, is that there was excessive force, and that in addition to excessive force, that excessive force also resulted from the custom, unconstitutional custom, of the Sheriff's Department in hiring people, putting them on the streets without training. Ma'am?
Entonces no va a haber cargos criminales en contra del policía.
Sí, y para que estemos seguros, esa decisión es una decisión del gobierno estatal, y aquí por parte de la Fiscalía del Condado de San Mateo y la investigación que ellos hicieron, el fiscal decidió no presentar cargos. El único remedio que le toca aquí a la gente, a la familia, es esta demanda francamente media inútil. Lo que prefieren es que se hubieran presentado cargos, y es lo que les queda, y por parte de esta demanda esperamos que sí vamos a llegar a la justicia. The question was, she wanted a clarification as to whether or not there were going to be any criminal charges filed. And the point basically is that that decision is a government decision. The government is represented by the district attorney here in the county of San Mateo, and their decision was not to press charges. They have that discretion, and although they agreed apparently with the family that it was an improper and wrongful shooting, they nonetheless refused to charge the shooter or Deputy True with criminal charges. The only remedy that the family has left for justice is a civil lawsuit. The Constitution protects us against things like this, and we are asserting those constitutional rights in this civil lawsuit.
¿A cuánto asciende de la compensación que les permite la ley?
Sí. No hay límite en la compensación, y eso es una pregunta, un tema que no hemos tocado en la demanda. El remedio económico no es el enfoque. Esa cuestión la vamos a dejar a las 8 o 12 personas que nos tocan como jurado. The question was, well, how much are you asking for in the lawsuit? Okay. My response is the remedy that the law gives us is an inadequate, it's an economic remedy. The focus of this lawsuit isn't that remedy. The focus of this lawsuit is to try to change things and to give light to shootings like this. In the lawsuit, there is no money requested. That question's going to be left to a jury. If they see proper to compensate the family in any way, we'll seek it there. But this focus of the lawsuit is to make sure that things like this just don't happen again.
If you elevate this to the federal level, can the sheriff still be prosecuted somehow?
Yes. The federal government also has a prosecutorial authority. En español, con permiso. El gobierno federal puede perseguir cargos aquí de violaciones de derechos civiles. Lo que entiendo aquí por parte de la cónsul González Félix es que van a reclamar eso con el gobierno federal y se espera que le van a dar la atención necesaria y esperamos que van a hacer lo justo y perseguir esos reclamos. The question is whether or not the federal government, despite the fact that the state government, the district attorney chose not to bring charges, whether the federal government can still bring charges. The federal government, through the civil rights arm of the Justice Department, can bring civil rights charges. And they basically are a mirror image of the civil claims. They could allege that the police officer, under color of law, under color of authority, violated Yanira's civil rights. The Consul General is going to request an investigation from the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, and we're optimistic that something's going to be done. Joven?
Cuando estuvimos en la junta del DA, él dijo que la ley se aplicaba para todos iguales. Policía, si yo hubiera hecho algo al policía o lo hubiera matado, yo ya estuviera para que me matara en la silla eléctrica.
¿Y su nombre cuál es?
Ismael Sánchez.
Mr. Sanchez makes a point that's very common in these cases. If he, as a private citizen, would have shot Yanira under these circumstances, he'd be in jail.
That's right.
Okay?
Or if I would have done the same thing to the cops,
Right.
like,
You'd get life.
yeah.
So,
Ya, yo quiero decir algo también.
I wondered if you know the status of the deputy. Has he been transferred? Has he been disciplined internally? And just what you think about the internal process that the Sheriff's Department might have gone through in addressing this case, if the DA said it was not a correct action.
what we do know is that there were two parallel investigations going on. An internal investigation, it's an administrative investigation. And through that process, they would have determined whether or not he violated any internal policies or procedures with respect to this. I don't know where they are in that, but I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you that they're going to find no fault in what he did. It is going to be a whitewash. I absolutely guarantee that.
Can I ask you, is there, in terms of the overall department, is this, as they say, an odd example, or is there some kind of pattern and practice in this community, particularly with the sheriffs focusing on this brown community?
One of the things that we focus on in the lawsuit is the community of people that suffer from mental illness. Okay, this is about the training that's provided to the department to deal with these people. It is something that folks with mental illness confront every day. Every encounter with a police officer can turn into something like this, especially with somebody who has a mental health condition as serious as schizophrenia. And keep in mind, there's 9 million, 10 million people here in the United States that have very serious mental illness. Okay, the Sheriff's Department recognizes that these folks, these people are sick, and that they have to deal with them in a way that is appropriate. Somebody who has a mental illness will not necessarily respond in a reasonable way that somebody who doesn't have that illness would. Okay? And the police officers have to be able to recognize and distinguish those facts. It could not have been any more clear that that's what they had. This is not an emergency. This is a medical situation. She is schizophrenic. Okay? And she's not armed. That is what they had. Deputy True shows up, guns drawn, rushing in, causing an explosion, causing himself, okay, to shoot her. It is absolutely inexcusable.
You described, I believe earlier, that Yanira did have a knife.
She did.
I think you called it a paring knife. I believe
paring
the
knife.
district attorney has called it a 10-inch kitchen knife. Is that fact in dispute? What she had in her hand?
It is, and I asked the family to show me one. It's from a knife set. She was, I'm not sure if it was a peach or an orange that she was peeling when the officer entered. She saw him and ran out after him with that knife.
So we're clear, how long of a blade would you describe the knife that you believe she had?
I think it's about a 5-inch knife.
How do you think this should have been handled?
Well, it should have been handled by observing the protocol. The training requires that, one, the situation, if it is nonviolent, okay, as it was reported, be handled by a trained supervisor. One was on the way. Two, the officers, as they did, are supposed to stage. They staged the paramedics and medical responders just here down the street, and they were to approach it in a calm way. And what happened was just the opposite. The sergeant was nowhere to be seen. The assigned deputy who had the handle or had the call got lost. The second handling officer likewise couldn't find the location. Okay. The third officer, who acknowledged the call as a second assisting officer, Mr. True, did not let the dispatcher or anybody else know that he was responding, that he was getting in his car. Okay? And that's the problem. They should have handled it as they were trained, in a calm and controlled way, and in an effort not to escalate the circumstances, which is exactly what happened. Sure, John.
Yeah, I just want to add how disingenuous the claim is that the protocol, the officers who were on their way were lost. When I arrived here on the day after Yanira's shooting, the first thing I saw was a squad car parked in front of her house, in front of the sheriff's substation. Now, they've played semantics with that substation, claiming that, well, it's a shared office, it's not solely theirs. But I can tell you, the day I arrived here, the day after she was shot, any sheriff who didn't know that that substation was there should be given a lie detector test, because I don't believe it.
I have a question. Sure. Yeah, it was reported at the time by some of the people who lived in the houses around here that Yanira was coming across the street with the knife, and that there were people in the sidewalk, potentially, potential victims, and that the deputy was acting somewhat on their behalf. Can you talk about that, please?
What's clear, at least what the district attorney reported to the family, is that he was acting for his own safety. There was nobody in the immediate vicinity of Yanira, okay? And that is what the district attorney, through their investigation, determined. He was acting, and in fact, he said he was acting on behalf of himself and the deputies that were arriving, okay? There was no threat. He maintained, keep in mind, he shot her from the distance of about where you and I are standing, okay? 10 feet away. He maintained that distance from his initial contact. As she got closer to him, he would back up. There was just no reason to shoot. The only person that was in even remote danger was the deputy that created the circumstances. You can't create a threat to yourself and then shoot somebody after creating that danger. Okay? And that's clear, and that's what the training seeks to protect against. Okay?
How did the deputy create the danger?
By rushing in without letting anybody know, by not following protocol. The protocol was for him to wait, to stand back, to even just to let him know that he was here. Keep in mind, he did not, other than acknowledging that he was an assisting, when he showed up, he didn't respond on the radio, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Just gets out, rushes towards them, and just causes an explosive situation. You can't create the danger, kill somebody as a result of that danger you yourself created. It's that simple.
You had mentioned she had taken her medication. How quickly does that affect the person that's schizophrenic to calm them down?
Right. Well, the important thing is not only that it would have calmed her down, but that she took it. Okay, the act of taking it told her parents that she was now under control. She had taken her medication. And I've asked them that specifically. How long does it take to actually take effect? 15 to 20 minutes. But again, she was, as they reported to the 911 dispatcher, compliant. Okay, she had taken her medication.
Was it one continuous phone call, or were there several phone calls that were made?
There was one. Okay, and it's on the flash drive that we provided. The entire event is captured there, including the shooting and the post-event shooting events. Tony and his mother tried to come and comfort her. At that point, then you do hear commands. Police, back off, back off. And as they would tell you, he was pointing that same gun at them.
Just to clarify the confrontation, you said that the brother told the 911 dispatcher she took her medicine, and then what happened?
Shortly afterwards, the police officer arrives and he parks just here where that brown vehicle is parked. And as Tony would tell you, he comes out running towards the house. Yanira meets him there on the sidewalk. He begins to back up. And then you hear on the 911, and you should play it, Tony's telling me, hey, wait. And it's actually about 8 seconds later, you hear that gunshot. Okay, Tony and his mom were present.
Is there an indication why she left the house with the money?
They were going to a coffee shop. Okay, she'd taken her medication. She was eating some fruit. They were going to go to the coffee shop here on Main Street and just relax and let things kind of calm down. And that's why she was coming back out to the car.
Was there mention of an independent autopsy? Has an independent autopsy been conducted?
Yes, we, right after the shooting, when the family contracted my office, we had an autopsy done. A copy of it is on the flash drive that we provided. Very simply, there was a single gunshot wound to the chest that killed her. Didn't kill her instantly. She was here. She was suffering and allowed to die.
Does it show anything different than the autopsy that would have been conducted by the county?
We don't know. They haven't provided that to us yet.
Can you say which medication she took? Do you have the name of the medication that she took?
We could get that to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yo quiero decir algo.
Su nombre,
que
señora.
Lorena Sandoval. Que esto es obvio de que a esta niña le violaron todos sus derechos y yo creo que todos los que tenemos un poquito de entendimiento de sistemas cívicos y de derechos humanos y de derechos civiles, de que todo ser humano debe de tener bajo de esta bandera o estas leyes o derechos que el ser humano se ha ganado en esta sociedad. El punto aquí es de que para mí este policía vino y no solo ofendió a los derechos de la familia y de esta niña, sino a toda una comunidad civil y a toda una comunidad humana. Y que este hombre debe de estar en la cárcel. Y que la comunidad no debe de sentirse nomás tranquila por el hecho de que el fiscal y el district attorney dijo, ok, aquí no se puede probar qué fueron los derechos cómo se le violaron sus derechos. El punto es que aquí se ha ofendido a toda una comunidad, no importa de qué color, no importa de qué cultura. Lo que este hombre hizo fue muy obvio para ver que todos estos derechos de todos nosotros, como humanos, como hispanos, como afroamericanos, como persona que tenía un problema mental, aparte de todas las otras nosotros que nos identificamos como sociedad, dependiendo de la cultura o el color o lo que sea, esta niña se le violó todavía algo más, que eran sus derechos que ella tenía extra todavía, porque ella era una persona que tenía minusválida, que tenía problemas de valerse. Así es que esto es completamente inmoral. Y yo pienso de que se debe de ir al grano y no estar debatiendo mucho en qué fue lo que le violaron, porque eso es bastante obvio. Y aquí lo que se debe de pedir es que este hombre pague como cualquier criminal. Él lo que hizo fue un crimen, que estaba él protegido por un uniforme y por una ley que yo no sé de dónde los policías últimamente han agarrado leyes, que ellos tienen derecho a matar a alguien con solo que les pregunta algo o le discuten. Ya lo que viene es la bala. Así es que yo pienso que eso debe de parar, porque esta sociedad va a llegar a niveles y a situaciones demasiado inmorales. Y es todo.
Señora Sandoval, muchas gracias. Very powerful words about the injustice of this all. And it truly is unjust.
Just could you elaborate a little bit more on the fact that she did have a physical disability?
Thank you. Yanira, as you'll see in the autopsy summary, people call it a club foot. She limped. It was an emaciated left leg, basically. Okay. She was 5 feet tall, 200 pounds, had a club foot. You know, you really have to wonder what kind of training this deputy had that he felt so threatened by such a woman. I have, as part of the media package, a link to a YouTube video. We couldn't download it onto the flash drive because of its size, but it is of Yanira at her last birthday. Okay, and I wanted to make sure you got a sense of how big she was. She was very heavy, and again, I mean, those are very important factors because it goes to his assessment of the risk and the threat that he faced.
How do we find that video again?
I give you the...
On the flash drive?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
There's a link on the flash drive.
The link, you can put the address and you have the link of the address.
Good. Any other questions, folks?
Are there photos of her on the file?
Yes,
There
sir.
are. Yeah. A copy of the complaint. Sí, cómo no.
Mi nombre es Jesús García, soy
Jesús.
testigo de Yanira.
¿Cómo no?
Y usted mencionó que segundo y tercer policía se perdieron aquí en esta área, donde solamente es un camino para ir.
Sí. No. And Mr. Garcia is Yanira's uncle, and again, he is emphasizing the point that how could the initial responding officers have gotten lost? There is basically one road into this community, and you know, John's point about them not knowing where it is, they literally live next door to the police station, okay? And as I understand from the radio traffic, they make that point. Hey, where is this place? It's next to the police station, okay? And they live right there, the police station, it's a substation. And in the radio traffic, they say, it's next to the substation.
You're talking about the substation down on Highway 1?
No, right. Substation's just next to it. Right.
They have their own parking spot. It says sheriff. Two.
And so, and they, right, and they even call it a substation. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Justicia, justicia, queremos justicia.
Justicia para Yanira.
Queremos justicia.
Los criminales están en la cárcel.
No pensé que fueran tantos.
The voters have an independent as a result.
No, es que ese es otro. Esta a mí se me acabaron, pero ahí tiene el abogado, exactamente. La mando más tarde. Channel 4?
Yeah, that's me. I didn't get one of the thumb drives. What? The thumb drive?
No, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Is this stuff we can download off the thumb drive? Because maybe I can share with some people Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm probably going to get your number before I go.
He gave me the last one.
Did I give you this?
Yes, you did.
We can remove those guys. They did it in Los Angeles. We can do it here. That'll be easier here.
I can agree. I don't know. This is a new challenge for everyone. I've had my experiences with the city council and the harbor district, and they can be changed. It takes a lot of effort. Well, it can be done.
Good idea. My brother and I, we own CitizenAccess.TV.
We are broadcasting this live. Trying to simplify, but it ain't working.
All we can do is try.
How do you spell
Por fin aquí llegó a este ciclo. Más personas
Did you get your flash drive?
I did.
Did you? Okay, because I said
Oh, so thank you very much. No, I Exactly.
Good job.
Make sure I don't see the little baby flash drive.
All right, okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for introducing me, and thank you for doing it.
You go see what's on the drive.
This guy right there, the guy with the green tie is the one giving out.
Okay, gotcha.
Right here.
el entrenamiento, el protocolo aquí de personas con enfermedades aquí de salud mental, pero no fue observado aquí.
I send you.
Radio station KIQ is going to be on air just a minute.
Ella, lo que entendemos aquí por parte de
Castigada.
la ley